It's Jordan Rudess from Dream Theater. Yes.
Here I am.
How are you?
Well, my friend, I'm doing very well. Things were kind of thrown for a loop when we decided to not do the whole tour that we had scheduled right now. So life is a little bit like, wow, but I stay busy and creative and a lot of stuff going on and just keep my fingers moving and my brain kind of picking up ideas from wherever they come from and just do my thing.
You have done more musical work during lockdown than I think most bands do on an active year. Liquid Tension 3, A View from the Top of the World. It has been an insane year for you.
Well, don't forget about A Chapter in Time, though, because that was the first thing. That was my solo bit. That was kind of like a musical diary for me. When the lockdown first happened, I'd literally go out to my studio, and the way I express myself is through music, really, even more than the talking stuff. So I would go out and I would just like make a cool sound, usually based on like a piano type thing, and just record and let my heart out and my thoughts out and just record out. And I wasn't thinking about an album or anything like that. I was doing it because I kind of needed to do it. And then after a while, I was like, man, I got some really nice stuff here. I should put it together in a collection. So I did, and I released it as A Chapter in Time, which was the first kind of like album that got out there, and then Liquid Tension, and then Dream Theater. And
I have to share something with you deeply personal about Liquid Tension, and that is that Liquid Tension was my first introduction to progressive rock and to instrumental prog rock. And my dad introduced me, and he passed away in 2003, but after he had his unfortunate diagnosis of a terminal illness, we were sitting down and we were listening to loads of albums together. Led Zeppelin 1, Led Zeppelin 2, and Liquid Tension 2 was in there. And the two of us sat there and listened to it, and we looked through the sleeve and everything together. So when you released Liquid Tension 3, that invoked so much emotion in me from that memory, and I was so happy to hear you guys back together, and what an amazing album it was, and thank you for doing that.
Well, I'm so touched to hear that it had so much meaning in your life, first of all. And and that album, those albums have a lot of meaning in my life too, because hey, I mean, Liquid Tension is really where this whole part of the journey for me started. I mean, it's where I got to work with John and Mike, and establish, the fact that we had this chemistry. And of course, working with Tony Levin was really, really special, just because who he is. And, so those albums just meant a lot to me because they were really fun and really musical and really freeing. And, to come back to it was like 22 years later.
How was it?
A third one. I mean, it was amazing. It was I realized a lot about the passage of time, because all of a sudden we're in the studio again, and it didn't feel like 22 years, but it was 22 years since this, since we had done this. And it just made me think that, you blink your eyes and this like time passes, and, we really are connected to different moments in time in this other way than, we usually think about it. So the fact that we could all come together and be present in the room and still do what we do without any kind of like barriers was really meaningful to me,
That's cool.
It's an amazing experience. And I feel like the album just turned out, really, really well.
It was amazing. I have to ask you a question about Liquid Tension that I have Googled and I cannot find a straight answer to.
I hope I can give you a straight answer.
Wow. I'm hoping you can as well. Are you going to do a tour of Liquid Tension?
Oh, well, I mean, we would like to, but, it was definitely discussed, and there's a positive feeling around the idea, but life is just so complicated now with, we had to actually postpone the Dream Theater tour. So, it's hard to think about anything but kind of like the main work or the main event. So we're not quite ready to think about nailing down a Liquid Tension thing when we're trying so hard to figure out if we can go on the road at all. Right. But maybe one of these days we'll do it. I mean, we left the Liquid Tension sessions feeling like, man, looking forward to doing this again. We should take this on the road. Everybody was very, really happy with everything, and it was, looking forward to doing more of it. in all the different ways.
So I obviously I feel like I have so many questions to ask you in such a short amount of time. So I'm kind of zipping through it. Obviously that's Liquid Tension. Let's kind of talk about Dream Theater and your newest album, A View from the Top of the World. What is your favorite track from the album?
Wow. Well, that is an interesting question because it really,
Thanks.
it changes every day. I mean, literally, I'm not just saying that because I'm very proud of I'm proud of all the Dream Theater albums, but this one, I don't know. I just think it's really like especially cool. It's one of these ones that I think is going to stand out in our catalog.
Okay.
It'll be interesting, especially like, can you imagine, as somebody who's been listening to this music for a long time, can you imagine somebody hearing Dream Theater for the first time and listening to this album, and this being the one that like gets them on the ride? That'd be really interesting to me.
I think your sound, and look, I'm saying this as like a lifelong Dream Theater fan. You guys were like my first ever favorite band. Hence the clothing for this evening. But I think every album you deliver seems to get better and better. But the one thing I've noticed about Dream Theater is its fan base is one of the most divisive fan bases of any band I have ever seen, whether that comes to albums, past members. There always seems, everybody has just got such a strong opinion about something about Dream Theater. Do you see that a lot?
I just think that is so crazy. And, sometimes it's really frustrating because there's a positive side of it where everybody feels like they want to be involved and they have these strong opinions and they're ready to state them behind their protected, like computer wall or whatever, because nobody really knows who they are or whatever. And sometimes they say shit that's just plain frustrating. And that can be frustrating. The bad part is they'll say stuff that might be even hurtful or uninformed, and it's frustrating to have people have a voice when they're saying stuff that is maybe in the category of not knowing what they're talking about, or even worse, maybe it's just bullshit, or so that part of like the world we live in and everybody chiming in and caring so much about it is a negative side. The positive side is that, wow, we created something that everybody cares so much about, that they're talking about, they're writing about, they're fighting about, they're passionate about, they want to chime in. I mean, it's probably best for guys like me who are in the band not to have and I don't really have their eyes on this stuff like all the time, because you could really make yourself crazy, right? You're trying to like create, you're trying to just feel free to do what you do and feel good about it and move forward. And if I read too many like negative comments on what I do, that's hurtful and it's sad. It's hard to totally ignore that.
Yes.
And it might be from people who like, there are people who say stuff about me that they've never even heard my like really gentle, mellow stuff. They've got I don't want to get too much into that topic, but like I have a whole like library of really gentle, thoughtful piano music that I put out. You get comments from people about my style that have never even heard that. And they might say, oh, all Jordan Rudess does is play fast. And that's just not fair. So I shouldn't really spend a lot of time on that. It's not real. But but I should say you have artists that are even no longer with us, like a Keith Emerson, who is my hero, that that stuff was breaking him down. That you hear about how that really affected him. It's horrible. We all hear about artists. People have to realize that these are people on the other side of your computer that you're talking about or insulting or saying weird shit about. So let's all be aware, be aware and be careful.
I think that highlighting that is only going to make that anybody who's listening to this or is watching it, I think highlighting that as a member is only going to do good. And I think that's amazing that you've said that. So we are so excited to see Dream Theater on the road here in the UK. It'll be so good to hang and to see you guys live and perform. Where do you think, and I asked this from a Dream Theater fan, where can Dream Theater go next? You've played in 1916, you've covered Pink Floyd, you do all these crazy polyrhythms, you've had an orchestra, you've had a choir, you've played at Wembley. Where does it go?
It's a really good question. I mean, Well, first of all, we have a track in 23/8 time. New album. So we go to 23. We keep on upping the numbers, you know.
Do
But
it.
I think that what it is that, you know, we are a band with everybody's very committed to their craft. You know, it's a lifelong thing. This is no joke, man. It's like, you know, we're in this for the long run, and we're in it for the growth and I mean, I'll speak just personally. Like, you know, my lifelong goal, the reason I'm on this planet in a big way is to figure out how to take what's in my head, the creative ideas and the messages, and allow them to come through fluidly out of my hands without any kind of blockage. Like, I can sit down and I can play the piano all day, but how much of it will be really connected? Like, how much is it just really flowing where my physical body and my mental body become one, and I just create? That, to me, there's no better reason to be like on this planet. You know, this is kind of where I'm coming from. This is the kind of musician that I am. What that matters to me. I use that skill in my compositional process where I'm trying to come up with a part. It's going to come out of some kind of zoom, comes in my head, comes out of my fingers, and there's the idea. It's not so much, you know, sitting there like calculating, like, oh, what's the next chord? No, it's more like talking and more like flowing and working on that whole experience. So where we go next, I mean, that's one example of like what we're striving for. Just speaking from a musical point, not even like landmarks, like we played with an orchestra, like what are we going to do next? We'll play on Mars or something like that.
I wouldn't, out of all the bands, it wouldn't surprise me if you guys did that. Just give Jeff Bezos a call. Everyone else is doing it.
There you go. It's on our roadmap. We'll be there. But I think there's enough there, even from the personal learning, the personal development, which we're all into. We're not like the typical pop rock, you know, fashion musicians who kind of do what they do and that's it, and eventually, you know, they play for a few years in a band and they're gone. Or, you know, this is a lifelong thing, and it's for all of us. So even just from a musical point of view, that's where we go. That's what we learn. We learn from the last album. We have new tricks, if you will, new skills, because we were paying attention. What worked on the last one? What can we improve? And so we're kind of in that mode. And technology wise, I mean, you know, I'm always like, you know, like keeping my eyes on and my hands on the latest technology. I have my company called Wisdom Music, Wisdom with a Z, and I do like all these cutting edge music apps. And I'm always kind of like trying to bring in new elements and kind of like, you know, just because it's fun and it's cool. And, you know, like on the new album, on A View from the Top of the World, I brought in the latest kind of like geoshred stuff, which are these physical models of like instruments like a cello, which you hear in the title track in the middle section where I'm doing it. And it sounds like a beautiful cello, but it's me playing on an iPad. So, cool. So there's always room to do cool new stuff, you know, and to do something the next level.
I'm pretty sure that in A Rite of Passage, there was an iPhone solo. There actually was, right? It was something along the lines of that.
Yeah. Well, I started out, what was it, like 12 years ago, and I had that at Morphwiz.
Yes.
Yes. Morphwiz was how I got started in the whole like app space. And actually, what's interesting is that in 2022, we're going to see Morphwiz Pro. 12 years later, I've taken that Morphwiz concept, which was a cool concept because it kind of introduced to the world to the idea of what they call MPE, which is a technology used to allow people to play like different expression on every finger that goes down on an instrument. In other words, you could like play two notes and bend one way up, and then the other pitch you could bend down, or you could change the filter or the brightness of one. So Morphwiz kind of was one of the pieces of music technology that introduced that idea back then. But it also used visual. So as it was morphing waveforms, it would morph visual images as well. So now we've taken that for 2022. Me and a partner of mine is a coder, and we're going to be putting that out.
That's cool. That's so exciting. I think the thing with Dream Theater is that, you know, I know you've heard this 100 times, but every one of your fans, regardless of, you know, their favorite album, would always say, these guys are gods at their instruments. You know, you've probably heard that in excess of like 500,000 times.
I don't let it affect me.
yeah. All right.
I should maybe it would help, you know, but
yeah. I don't think, but yeah, so you hear time and time again, you know, people.
Can you keep telling me that? Just like I'm trying to let it sink in. It'll boost, you know, it'll boost my ego a little bit. Help me get through the day.
Oh shit, I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, so everybody says, you know, everyone says you guys are kind of gods at what you do, but I think from a background of media, what you guys have also become is you're walking brands. You know, everybody knows you as the wizard. You wear the hat, you've got the beard, and this is what you do. Everyone knows John Petrucci as shredding, you know, faster than the speed of light and being like the Incredible Hulk on the guitar. Yeah, right. You know, each one of you guys is like a walking brand. You would be a marketing dream, I think, a marketing dream theater. Sorry. But do you think was that a conscious decision to kind of do that, to have such definitive landmarks in the band for each of you?
That's such an interesting perspective. I mean, you're right. I mean, we've even had like cartoon characters made of us,
right?
Those cool animations that you see. But I think that's part of the fun. You know, we're entertainers. That's the thing about Dream Theater. I mean, you have a lot of, you know, you're into the stuff. There's a lot of amazing musicians out there, wonderful, great people, great musicians. Maybe they even play better than the guys in Dream Theater. But Dream Theater, what kind of like brings us together and makes us work is that we don't only play. Yeah, we go on stage and we play our hearts out and do all these virtuosic things, but we're putting on a show. Like I'm like tilting the keyboard and we've got visuals at the top and cartoons, and you know, there's a lot of elements. Like John Petrucci's got his awesome looking reflective guitars, and you know, there's a thing going on, or like the, you know, one of the mics has these huge drum sets that just has this enormous presence, and you know, so there's that whole like element, but it's part of the fun. And I think that because we've been doing this for a while, we appreciate that fun. We've been putting energy into those characters. Hey, it's fun to be a character. It's fun to have like a wizard thing 100%. Going on, you know. So and it also makes you a little bit more, you know, we're in a business, and it's business, it's fun. And like me with this look, I mean, I understand that there's a look there. And that's part of the fun. It's part of the magic. It's part of the business. It's got a lot of different reasons for kind of congealing and becoming something. What you don't want to do necessarily is if you go too far down that road, it almost becomes laughable. Yes. And that is an issue for an artist that's been around for a long time, that's been kind of like working on a character. Like I guess I could say that I would be concerned about that, you know, for like Dream Theater or whatever, like not really for myself. I mean, I'm not like just like going over the top with a thing. I'm not, you know, wearing like wizard costumes and like
it's gonna happen.
But some artists, they kind of like become caricatures of themselves.
Yeah,
which I think that's when it might be a little too far.
I totally get that. I absolutely get that. And I think, and I don't want to say this without stirring anything, and it's certainly not my intention of doing so, but I think that, you know, that's part of the reason as to why, you know, when you look online at Dream Theater covers on the drums, I think that's why, you know, so many people model themselves to a degree on Portnoy, because he's like the David Beckham of drums. You know, he's got the tattoos and the blue in his beard, and I think that's, you know, though, but people do the same as each of you. You know, I think people, they try and look like you and they beef up like John Petrucci, and they, you know, I think that's why so many of you have and do have such a magnetic presence, and I think it works really well.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, Mike Portnoy, you know, one of the most gifted, you know, talented people that I know. I mean, his personality is very strong. His thing is really, maybe you think about all the guys, he's got one of the most noticeable, you know, looks, personality, and that kind of like highlights our point even.
Yeah, 100%. Right?
Yeah.
I was wondering, I know that you're pushed for time and I'm gonna be super quick, but I was wondering if I could have a little bit of a Dream Theater quick fire question round with you.
Yeah.
And there's only a couple of questions, but I would be super interested to see your answer. So basically you can answer the question and you don't need to give an explanation, but I would be very interested to see this if you want to play.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
All right. Schmedley Wilcox or Instrumedley?
Instrumedley.
Yes! Scenes from a Memory or The Astonishing?
Let's say Scenes from a Memory.
Okay. Live at Budokan, 2004, or Luna Park?
Live at Budokan.
A continuum solo or a guitar solo?
Guitar solo.
Nice. Acid Rain or Kindred Spirits?
Kindred Spirits.
Really? I was not expecting that. I think I've been pretty good so far.
Okay.
Complicated mid-eights or choruses that the crowd sing along to live?
Choruses that the crowd sing along.
Okay, I don't know you as well as I thought. And the last one, your beard or John Petrucci's beard?
Mine. Although he's got a great beard.
He does.
And if you ask me those on a different day, I might respond differently as well, because they were tough questions. I'm in a more, like the Acid Rain, Kindred Spirits, I'm in a more lyrical space today. So Kindred Spirits was especially melodic, and it's kind of where my energy is.
Amazing. Well, your album, A View from the Top of the World, is out today. I'm just saying today, just because when this goes out, it will actually be on the day.
Wow, today's the day. Oh my God, man. Holy shit. Finally.
Yes.
We did it.
So once again, Jordan Rudess, thank you for joining us on the Heavy Hook Show, and congratulations on the release today. And we'll hopefully see you very soon.
Awesome. It's always good to talk to you, my friend. Thank you for your energy.
You hang up. No, you hang up. Stop. I'm just gonna stop the recording.